Hey there, We Can't Wrestle podcast listeners. If you haven't noticed, we have switched our server to Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many, many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So go ahead, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Highly recommended by me and everybody else here at the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the We Can't Wrestle podcast on Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, every single podcast app that you can possibly have. We are available. And we thank you for your patronage because this is episode 50. Nate and Kyle are here with you. Aaron's feeling under the weather tonight, so he will not be joining us. But, Kyle, episode 50.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service because you don't get paid. People you should know, Kyle and Aaron don't get paid to do this show.
I get paid in experience. I get paid in memories is what I get paid in. So
they're doing it for their love of pro wrestling. And we are at episode 50 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. We have a special feature for you tonight. We prepared essentially pro wrestling mixtapes.
Yep.
And when Kyle presented this idea to me, the way I kind of looked at it, and I don't know if this is what you were getting at or what have you, but I kind of rolled with it like if I was going to make a tape, that dates me, a tape. All right, how about this? If I was going to make a DVD or a Blu-ray of someone to watch 10 things. It may not even be the matches, may not even be my favorite matches. You know, they're matches I love to watch. But anyway, if I was going to make something for someone to watch to encapsulate me as a wrestling fan, these are the 10 things I would put on that tape.
Yes.
So
exactly.
We're going to do that, and that's going to be fun.
But before we get there, you know, I've been kind of feeling down, Nate.
Uh-oh.
Kind of been having a bad couple days. So, you know, I went ahead and I cut all the Nike swooshes out of my shorts and my shirts. And the sad part about it is now I just have fucking the same Nike swoosh, but it's just cut out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fucking pointless. It's kind of mad about that. Yeah. Really wish I would have thought about that ahead of time.
I looked at the Nike swoosh the other day and I thought, well, that kind of looks like a hurricane. And then Hurricane Florence hit.
Yes,
so, damn.
And to be honest with everybody, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody down there.
Yes.
And with the hurricane and everything, stay safe.
My thing was, and I posted this on my personal Facebook page about this whole Colin Kaepernick thing with the Nike. Like, my thing is, who cares what overpaid athlete is doing commercials for overpriced footwear? You know what I mean?
Well, then I saw the commercial and I was like, it's not even... but...
Yeah,
like I said, and the thing that gets me above everything else is people like, I'm going to cut up my stuff. Same thing with the NFL. It's like, you already bought it. They already got your money.
What the fuck? I mean,
guess what? It's the same thing as, you know, fucking Roddy Piper would say, oh, please don't buy my 8x10 and rip it up in front of me. I hate that.
Right. Fucking idiots. Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I haven't owned anything Nike since I was a teenager anyway, because I'm a practical guy and I'm kind of cheap. So, I mean, the most expensive tennis shoes I buy, I usually have a pair of Skechers.
Right.
Which my kids make fun of me because they're like, Skechers, you're old. But whatever.
Well, it's like, look, I'm wearing what fucking makes me feel comfortable because I'm on my goddamn feet all day.
Right. I don't buy Nike products. I don't care. I don't care if he takes a knee, quite frankly, because who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. I haven't religiously watched the NFL in years because I think they're overpaid and
I think anything Nike that I have, or Reebok, or any like designer clothes, is all came from Goodwill. Honestly,
it was secondhand anyway. The money you spent didn't go to Nike anyway.
No, I just went to Goodwill.
So,
but How about that Hell in a Cell, man?
Well, yes, we are recording this episode here on September 16th. It'll probably be hitting the air on September 17th as I will edit it tomorrow morning. But Hell in a Cell pay-per-view just concluded. I have a few things to say about the
Holy
show.
shit, hang on. I just got a fucking tweet from Toots.
Oh, my.
Yeah. He says here, hang on. What does this say? Oh, boy. He said, how apropos that the cage was red. Because anybody that's been married or have a relationship, when it's time for their period, that's the real Hell in the Cell. Oh, Toots, that's...
Hashtag Hurricane Flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was what I was about to say. We opened the show up with the red Hell in a Cell. It's funny because when I first saw it, I was like, what the fuck, a red Hell in a Cell? As you watch the show, to be honest, and you may disagree with me, the red Hell in a Cell,
grew on me.
Yes, it was aesthetically pleasing. When I watch now, I have to realize, even though sometimes it gets on my nerves how sterile things look, they are filming the show in a high definition era.
Yep.
So making things pretty is much more important than it used to be. When you filmed a Hell in a Cell in 1997, that was just fence, but that was also, old cameras. And the details didn't show up.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. So, like you said, as I'm watching the Jeff Hardy Randy Orton match, the fact that the cell was red kind of caught on to me, and by the end of the show, I was used to it already. So I'm all right with it. It's fine.
Yeah, like I said, it was nice to see something different. I guess it was nice to see that because they kind of made it seem like it was more of an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for it. I wonder if the Elimination Chamber is going to be blue and
right. So a few observations. Firstly, mentioning the match, Orton and Hardy.
Jesus Christ.
That match was brutal. I can't gauge exactly how I feel about it. Sorry.
I fuck can, because I had, for all fans out there to know, I have my ears stretched and everything else.
Yes.
And to see that shit, I was like, ah.
Yeah, I don't. I have no piercings. I have no tattoos. But watching that, I was cringing like a son of a bitch. So that's what I was going to do, since you have gauge.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, my question. Because, wrestling's a work.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestlers have a tolerance for pain, and they do things that put them in pain. So my question to you, is someone that doesn't have any work done at all, any piercings, any tattoos, anything, so I'm completely blind and ignorant to this, okay?
Yep.
If Jeff wears really big gauges, which I think he does...
Yep.
Because his ear is already stretched the way it is... Was the visual effect worse than the pain? If that makes sense, what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Since he stretches his earlobes like that anyway, would he have less pain involved in the actual spot?
Yes, because basically, like, long story short is, if you have a regular earring in,
mm-hmm.
like your normal earring, those can be ripped out easily.
Right.
When it's more stretched, it's basically stronger, can take more abuse. Like I said, I can hang. I know people who hang weights off of their ears to stretch them out.
And I'm sure there's discomfort involved.
But the fact that he was pulling on it and then twisting it around, there's no way around that. That's got to fucking hurt.
Yes, and that was sick.
God damn. I'll give them credit. They fucking put on one hell of a match.
Yes. And the match, the only issue I had with that match, and I actually had the issue with the match beforehand, because I didn't think that they had built their rivalry up enough to be in a Hell in a Cell match. Like, when I was thinking Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, I knew they'd have two matches, and I knew Braun and Roman would be one of them. I figured because of the personal issue, Joe and Styles would be the other. More on that match later.
Right.
I didn't think that Jeff and Randy had built up their feud enough to warrant a Hell in a Cell match. And then I watched the match, And other than the last spot, which could have been accomplished even with a ladder, the match did not at all utilize the cell.
No.
So to me, the only criticism I have of the match, because I thought it was really good, was the fact that there was no purpose for it being in a Hell in a Cell.
No. I will say this: those two beat the fuck out of each other.
Indeed, they did.
Jesus Christ!
And that was something that I noticed also about this pay-per-view. This is the most blood I've seen in a WWE pay-per-view in ages.
Yeah,
like ages. There was blood in blood in Hardy and Orton. There was blood in AJ and Samoa Joe. There was also blood. There was blood in the Miz match, but I think that was like the hard way. When Daniel gave that knee to Miz, I don't think that he was supposed to bleed.
No,
that was definitely a hard way spot.
But in a Hell in a Cell, it makes it more believable.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you have two guys who have a feud like that. You're gonna draw blood.
Exactly.
I mean, my God, it's old as time. And the right wrestlers can make it look fucking devastating, like Ric Flair. That fucking blonde hair was made perfectly for fucking blood.
Well, and Randy Orton's a great bleeder.
Yeah.
The reason that I've always thought that Randy was a great bleeder too is he does not bleed. Like Flair or Stone Cold, when they bleed profusely.
Yeah.
What I've always thought was cool about Randy, and this is just a natural thing, some of us are bleeders and some of us aren't. Randy's blood, when he bleeds, it's less, but it's more I don't know, impressive. I don't even know how to put it. It's just he bleeds differently. So we had that match, and I thought that match was good. I thought they did a decent job with it. Two great workers. I guess we'll mention while we're talking about that match, since you got a Hardy in that match, Matt Hardy has retired.
Well, see, and that's the thing. That's the interesting thing about it, because he says it's the last time you're going to see Broken or Woken Matt.
Mm-hmm.
So is he coming back as regular Matt? Who knows what they're doing with that? But if he is done,
I think he's done, and the reason I say that is he had to have what is it, like his pelvis and his spine or something are fusing together. And
I think so.
He's got some crazy shit going on there.
Which is, it's sad.
Yes, but I don't think Jeff is much longer either for the world of wrestling. With his mounting injuries and everything too, and I think, to be honest, they might wind up being the main event for the Hall of Fame this year.
Right. Well, and then you look at the crazy shit like Jeff did tonight, and it's like, don't fucking add years to your career.
Right. And then Becky Lynch defeats Charlotte for the Women's Championship, which was a satisfying finish. Yep. And can continue their feud.
I like the fact that Charlotte went to shake her hand, and Becky's like, nah, you're not taking this moment from me.
Yes, I do too, and I like the feud, even though, the fans have been kind of treating Charlotte like she's the Roman Reigns of the women's division. Not booing who Vince wants them to boo. That's all right, whatever. But I do think the feud's good, and I thought the match was good, and I was happy to see Becky Lynch win the Women's Championship.
Yep, definitely deserves it.
And now the next match was the Raw Tag Team Championship match, and I have to make a point here. And it may be controversial. I don't care. This is one of the reasons I wish Aaron was here, because he'd probably, I don't know if he'd argue with me or not. He might have actually the same way I did. And I'll see what you think. I told my wife while I was watching the show that I've probably in my lifetime, being a wrestling fan, and as long as I've watched, I've been a fan since 1983 when I was 5 years old. All the shows I've watched, all the pay-per-views I've watched. I've probably watched. I'll be honest. I don't think it's a terrible. I don't think it's an overstatement for me to say that I have watched tens of thousands of wrestling matches. Okay, and I have to say that the Ziggler, McIntyre, Rollins, Ambrose tag team title match tonight is one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. Ever. I think, and this is a big statement, I honestly think that is the best tag team match I've seen in this decade. I was on the edge of my seat watching that match. These four guys fucking tore it up tonight. And from 2010 to 2018 in this decade, that's the best American tag team match I've seen. I've seen some better tag team matches out of Japan, but that was the best American, especially WWE tag match I've seen in a decade. And kudos to all of them because that match was fucking fantastic. I don't know. Do you think I'm overstating it or?
No, absolutely not. I mean, it seemed like tonight, and I'm not trying to take anything away from what you're saying about tag team match, but it seemed like everybody tonight was kind of stepping their game up.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was actually overall a really good pay-per-view. But it didn't honestly, this pay-per-view didn't lose my interest much at all.
No, it was paced very well.
Yes, and we'll get to the match soon. But as crazy as it sounds, the match that, to me, the worst match on the card, as crazy as it sounds, the worst match on the show tonight was, and it wasn't even bad, but out of this show, to me, the worst match was the Bryan Miz mixed tag team match. But,
excuse me.
Yeah, I really did. I thought that these four guys fucking lit it up tonight. And I thought it was a great match. And I love clean finishes, even when it's a heel. I guess not clean finishes, but a definitive finish. There was no screw job ending. There was no, I mean, the heels did heel shit. But overall, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great match. And the finish was awesome. The match itself, I mean, you talk about, that's what a tag team match should be. I mean, they essentially, Rollins and Ambrose played Robert Gibson and Ricky Morton tonight.
Yep.
And, Rollins sold, and then finally Dean Ambrose playing the role of a Robert Gibson made the hot tag, and, McIntyre and Ziggler they played the Midnight Express. This is like rock and roll and midnight from the 80s. This was a fantastic tag match, and I think, to be honest, like I said, wrestling's like art. Wrestling is art, so it's all subjective. But this is the best tag match I've seen in 10 years. So kudos to these guys. Fantastic. Best match of the night, in my opinion.
I got to give that to you. I agree. I think they had an amazing match. They really, truly came tonight, like I said, with, it almost felt like this was their rebuttal to All In.
Yeah, I actually, in a wrestling board that I belong to on Facebook, I actually put, and I'm of course have been getting wonderful reactions from the internet wrestling community, but I actually put down that this tag team match was better than anything on the All In show. And that's not dogging out the All In show. I liked that show too, but this was four pros doing what they do, and it was fantastic.
I got to give it to you. I agree. I mean, they literally went out there tonight knowing what they were doing, and they stole the show.
Yep, I agree. So then we move on to two guys that also did a fantastic job in their match, AJ Styles and Samoa Joe in the WWE Championship match. And the match itself started off slow, but that's okay. They built to a really satisfying finish, I thought. If you're continuing a feud, you have the disputed finish. I thought that the pinfall plus the submission was a good idea if you're going to continue on to the Australia pay-per-view. I don't know. It wasn't the best AJ Joe match I've ever seen, but it was good. My only problem with this is I just don't think, you have a great. This is one of the few times in the WWE in probably the past 5 or 6 years that you have a really good personal issue storyline going on with Joe and AJ. And AJ, I don't think he just hasn't been booked to be aggressive enough.
No,
like you know what I mean? Like you've got Joe getting on this guy's family. I mean, John Cena had more aggression when Edge was beating up his dad.
Well, and that's the thing about it. You want to see the babyface have fire.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see the babyface, come into the match. There's a perfect example, going back to the Hardy Orton match, right off the bat, fucking Orton jumps into it.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, not Orton, but Hardy jumps into it.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see. You want to see the babyface who's been fucked over and screwed with. You want to see him basically fucking get the heel.
Right. Yeah. Forget that he's a babyface tonight.
And the fact that Hardy, all that's happened to him is that he's had his face paint wiped off. And he's that pissed. AJ Styles should be fucking ready to kill Samoa Joe.
Yeah, and I don't know if that is. I don't know if that's WWE's fault. I don't know if that's AJ's fault. He's just not getting the fire. He's not. I don't know, but hopefully that's what that's building toward in Melbourne, because I don't see Joe winning the title. So you've had AJ. You had the SummerSlam match, and then tonight we had the screwy finish where it could have been either guy. So then
I gotta say, I like the way they did this more than what they did with The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This felt better planned. It felt more real.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And the AJ or a good heel is right, and they know they're right.
Yep.
And Joe is, if you look at everything they did, the way they did it, and these guys are two fucking pros. They're two of the best in the business, so of course it's going to come off perfectly. It came off perfectly. Just what I hope is AJ wins in Melbourne, and he wins by being, because they're doing a no holds barred match, which is good. So I just hope that AJ brings it, and his character is a little vicious during that match. Because I don't think he's dropping the title to Joe. I really, honestly, and it sounds silly, I'm a big AJ Styles fan, so it works out for me. But I think they're actually going to have, I think they want AJ to surpass CM Punk's title reign, because WWE's petty like that.
Yep.
So I think AJ is going to retain the championship at least through to where he can be the 10th longest reigning champion instead of CM Punk.
Which, with Punk not being in the company and all the heartache and everything, the harsh feelings, I guess I can understand them.
Right.
Like, hey, here's this guy.
And as much as I'm a CM Punk fan, I have to say, going back to when he left the company, no matter what his grudges were, no matter what his complaints were, no matter any of that, you don't walk off the fucking job.
Yeah.
And I'd say the same thing about Stone Cold Steve Austin. You don't take your fucking ball and go home. You have fans that are paying to see you advertised. You are advertised. No matter what your bitch moan fest is with Vince McMahon, it's not about Vince McMahon. It's about me, Kyle, anybody that's paying a fucking ticket to see you wrestle. When you walk out, you're fucking us. So,
yep.
To me, anybody that walks out, no matter how much I like them, I'm a big CM Punk mark. But no matter how much I like CM Punk, the way he left the company was fucking bullshit,
Well, and what's even more bullshit is the fact that did CM Punk deserve the main event of WrestleMania? Absolutely. But the problem is, it's like he felt like he needed to have it right then and there.
Well, my thing always with that stuck with me, stuck in my crawl about that, when he said that, was, okay, Okay, in 1989, when Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage main evented WrestleMania 5, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage was the main event of WrestleMania 5 because wrestling and WrestleMania was booked differently then.
Yep.
There is not, quote-unquote, a main event of WrestleMania anymore. Okay?
No.
And my thing is, WrestleMania 28, CM Punk was in a championship match with Chris Jericho. That is a main event. WrestleMania 29, CM Punk wrestled the fucking Undertaker at WrestleMania. That is a main event.
And he had the match of the night.
Exactly. So, in the modern wrestling era, the last match of the show isn't... Yes, it's the main event technically. But do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's not the main event. There isn't a main event of WrestleMania anymore. Because even the guy that wins the Royal Rumble doesn't always appear in the last match anymore.
No. Look at Sheamus. He won the Royal Rumble. It was in the first match and beat fucking Daniel Bryan.
Well, so was Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio won the Royal Rumble, and he opened up WrestleMania 27. But that's still a main event. That's still a championship match at Wrestle. I don't know. I've never followed Punk's logic on that. Like,
to me, it always felt like that it was that he wanted what he wanted, and he wasn't going to be happy till he got it. And
he didn't. I don't think he even knew what he wanted. I think he just wanted to go home.
Yeah, I think that if he had. Even if he had gotten the main event, he still probably would have.
Yeah, because he would have been in the main event. Because they pitched him they pitched him. He was going to wrestle Triple H at WrestleMania 30, which is a main event. No, I don't want it. I don't want it.
So here's the biggest thing that bugged me was, he made all these points about how nobody ever believed in me, and Triple H tried to bury me. Well, guess who else got fucking buried? Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Guess who else got buried? John Cena.
Guess who else got buried? Daniel Bryan.
And they rose the occasion, and they won over Vince, and they won over Triple H. Mm-hmm. It's not about how it's fucking politics. That's what it is.
Yeah.
In any business, it don't matter what it is. There's politics.
Right.
Now, you've worked in retail. I work in factory manufacturing. There's fucking politics everywhere you go.
Exactly. Everybody
thinks they can do it better. Everybody thinks that they deserve what you have. I've said it time and time again. Where I work, you could have a bag of shit, and everybody's gonna be mad because you have a bag of shit.
I want a bag of shit.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Well, he got a bag of shit. Where's my bag of shit?" Be like, "Guys, it's a bag of shit."
And then you get your bag of shit, and you're like, "It's just a bag of shit."
You want to be like, "I tried to fucking tell you."
Is this the CEO shit? Oh, it's the executive vice president shit? Why does he get the CEO shit?
Yeah, so...
Speaking of Daniel Bryan, the next match on the show, Daniel Bryan and Brie against The Miz and Maurice, which to me left a lot to be desired, and I wasn't happy with the finish. I don't understand. I guess I understand they're building up heel heat, because I think, aren't they supposed to have Bryan and The Miz in Australia, and the winner gets a championship match?
I think so.
So I assume Daniel Bryan wins in that one, but Daniel Bryan for the past 2 months has been made to look really stupid. And as much as I dig The Miz as a heel, I don't know. Their feud to me, I think the feud for me lost steam just because of the fact that they had their talking smack moment like 2 years ago. And I don't know. It's kind of fell flat for me the whole time.
Well, and then we're bringing in Maurice and we're bringing in Brie, which, we just had that at Mania with Cena and Nikki. So it's like, I don't know.
Their feud is essentially an advertisement for Total Divas.
Yeah, pretty much.
But anyway, Miz and Maurice go over there. Ronda Rousey and Alexa Bliss. I thought Ronda Rousey sold too much.
I agree with you, but I see why they did it.
Right.
Because how do you book Ronda Rousey as this unstoppable beating machine? It's the fucking Goldberg complex.
It is, but I think
How do you make her vulnerable?
I think that you, to me personally, I told my wife while she was kind of watching the pay-per-view.
Right.
And I was watching the pay-per-view tonight. I told her, I said, Natty is smiling. Natty is walking to the ring with Ronda. The only reason baby faces in wrestling have best friends is so that their best friend can turn on them.
I was waiting for it.
I think that, to me, because Natty's a badass, everybody knows she's a badass, I almost think that it would have been better to book Ronda until maybe like Survivor Series, where she just runs through bitches, and then you have Natty turn on her, and Natty becomes her first big. Because I think from everything I understand, I think their goal for WrestleMania is to get to a Ronda Rousey Charlotte Flair match, which is awesome. That's cool. That's fine.
Right.
But I think you have Natty turn on her, and Natty really could be the first one to give her. I mean, okay. Nothing that happened to Ronda tonight happened to her fairly, and they were working the rib angle and all that. I mean, it's fine, but I didn't want to see her selling like that yet.
Right. I guess to me, what I had thought would have been cool, or what they should have done was, yes, I understand that, it would have been a quick cash in with the fact that the Anvil died, but have Ronda Rousey sit there and be like, oh crap, Ronda got attacked backstage, and oh, Natty's going to take her spot.
Mm-hmm.
Have Natty win the title, and then it comes back that oh shit, it was Natty who attacked Ronda Rousey.
Right.
That way, you give Natty that moment of winning the title for her dad, and then then you can move on.
Right. Right.
Like, they should just fucking called an audible and been like, all right, fuck it. Natty's winning the goddamn title because we need some feel-good moments here, guys.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so now we move on to the end of the show and a super-duper clusterfuck.
God, it was bad, wasn't it?
I picture Vince McMahon going, Roman and Strowman, I can't have anybody job in that match because they both give me a hard-on, pal.
Yeah.
I mean, Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns became about everyone but Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns.
There was that point in that match where I'm sitting there watching, everyone's on everyone's on top of the cage, and I'm like,
what the fuck is going on? Like,
isn't this a championship match?
These two guys have put each other through tables, wrapped each other up with chairs, and they're just laying there for fucking 10 minutes in the ring while everybody else is fighting around them. Like, the match just, I don't know, it was like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I said, it was a match that was between two guys that became about everybody but those two guys.
And then the whole Lesnar thing kind of pissed me off because you have Lesnar come out, which was a cool moment. Yeah, okay, that's great, cool. Like, Lesnar, it was a surprise. But then he gives the fucking F5 to him, and then it's like, oh, these two cannot compete. They cannot continue. It's like, well, that was just his finishing move. Why can't they continue? It's not like we just saw fucking...
Because in the modern WWE, part-timers are better than full-timers.
But we just saw fucking Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler fall off the goddamn cage.
Right.
Through things like that would be something that, like, oh, these two cannot continue. Not the goddamn F5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that match was... I don't usually like to be bitchy or moany or complain, but what do I say?
Well, stupid is stupid.
Yes, everybody else involved, Ziggler, McIntyre, Rollins, Ambrose, and even Lesnar, everybody else in the match did a great job and held up their end of the bargain. But the two guys that were in the actual match, it was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. And it was a non-finish for the sake of a non-finish. and I thought it was garbage. I thought that you ended a really good show on a really bad note.
I guess why did that need to be inside of the Hell in a Cell?
Yes. Both Hell in a Cell matches tonight did not need to be in a Hell in a Cell.
You know what it almost felt like? It felt like they're like, well, we need to have something really cool for Brock. What can we do? Oh, let's have him kick the fucking door open.
And that's the problem with setting pay-per-views, setting matches based on the name of a pay-per-view instead of having a match because of the feud.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem with the fact that we have a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Because before, it was, we have found a feud that deserves to be in a Hell in a Cell match. Example, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, or Undertaker and Edge.
Yep.
Now, it's, every September we got to have a couple of guys that we're going to put in the Hell in, and it decreases the validity and the importance of the match by having it be that is the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Right, and whether you paint the fucking thing red, blue, orange, green, it doesn't really fucking matter.
Mm-mm.
It's
it looks cool, but what's the purpose?
Yeah, it's still fucking a Hell in a Cell for the sake of having a Hell in a Cell.
Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well,
which, like I said, my biggest problem with it wasn't the fact that I'm glad Brock Lesnar showed up. He looked fucking strong and kicked the fuck open. But like I said, the fact that this is a Hell in a Cell and nothing ends the match except a pinfall and a submission, and then
they throw it out.
Yeah.
And actually, if you think about it from a logical standpoint, realistically, if wrestling's real, the referee in the first Hell in a Cell match tried to throw it out.
But I'll give that credit because I like the fact that the referee's like, goddamn, Jeff's hurt, and fucking Randy Orton's like, nah, you need to fucking pin him.
Yeah, no, let me get my pin first. Yeah, good heel move. All right, well, we are going to take a break. That is our Hell in a Cell discussion. Kyle, I'm going to let you go first. You're going to be the first one to do the mixtape here tonight on episode 50 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And we will be right back after this with more of the show. All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate and Kyle here with you on episode 50. And we are going to, I think, since Aaron was feeling under the weather, for our opening segment on the next show, I will make it so that we don't have to talk about the modern product since he likes to bitch about that anyway. And we'll let him do his mixtape as the opening segment for next time's show.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Just want to be fair to him, and but before you start, something I'm going to present to him because he likes to bitch about the modern product, and so does a lot of the internet wrestling community. And I'll get a lot of hate, but my opinion to the internet wrestling community, to be perfectly honest, because I find a general discomfort with the modern product a lot of the time, but I watch it, and like I've said before, this is the only era in wrestling that I've ever been more intrigued. Like, I go into every single pay-per-view because of the storytelling, thinking I'm going to be disappointed, and then these guys just put on one fucking hell of a show.
Right.
Every time. Like, it's the only time in wrestling I've ever seen it where the matches, the angles don't matter because the matches are so good. But my proposition to those in the internet wrestling community that do not like the modern product is if you want to force change, you need to literally stop watching. You need to stop watching Raw. You need to stop watching NXT, anything. You need to stop subscribing to the network because if not, all Vince McMahon thinks is, well, you're still subscribing to my network, you're still coming to my shows, you're still watching Raw, you're still watching SmackDown. So, essentially, my point is, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Don't watch it and then bitch about it. Just don't watch it at all.
Right. I mean, the thing is that, you know, there is a lot of bullshit that happens. But for the most part, it's... Look, this is the issue, okay?
She ain't what she used to be. But
no,
it's
I understand that, but
bad.
Here's the thing I want to say. And, you know, I know we're going to get to our mixtapes here in a second, but... Look, the fucking world is a horrible place, all right? There's a lot of bullshit going on. We're on the verge of blowing each other up. Goddamn, we're never going to have intelligent life or intelligent conversations with intelligent life outside of our own fucking universe because we're on the verge of blowing ourselves up and people are getting out of their fucking cars, doing goddamn challenges and then getting hit. You know, the world's a fucking horrible place. Go on the internet. You'll fucking see it all. So for a few hours each week, you know, we like to talk about pro wrestling because, goddamn, it makes us feel good.
Right.
And you know what? Yeah, maybe wrestling isn't fucking what it used to be, but, I mean, I don't know. Fucking enjoy it.
Exactly.
And just realize it is what it is. It's not meant to be...
There is no other form of entertainment in the world that has fans like wrestling fans.
No, think about it. You used to have a guy, a mentally challenged guy, that would swing a fucking 2x4 around, yelling "ho," and people are like, "Oh, these are gladiators of the sport." No, it's always been like this. This is what wrestling is.
When there's a bad sitcom, people just don't watch the sitcom and it gets canceled if they don't like it. When there's a bad, you know, I mean, there's a reason that tough man contests or guys tossing kegs and pulling trucks is on at 2:00 in the morning on ESPN2. It's because people don't watch it. So wrestling fans are the biggest gluttons for punishment I've ever seen in my life because they hate the product, but they keep watching it. And I just don't understand. Like, if you hate it that much, stop it. You know? I mean... That's what we did. That's what, well, a lot of people, not me. I watched through the brutal days of 1995 because, God damn it, I'm a monster. But that's what a lot of people did in 1995 is they stopped watching the WWF, and it forced Vince McMahon to do things he would not normally do to get viewers. And if you don't force his hand, he's not going to change.
Right.
I mean,
and if you're not going to do it, and you're just going to keep watching, then shut the fuck up. Because we watched WCW through the 2000s.
Right. And I think that tonight... yeah. Well, and if you notice tonight during the show, they really... it was a random Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. But to comment on it just one more time, everybody really turned it up a notch, including the booking. And I don't know if that has to do with this or anything, but I don't know if you've noticed, but for like the past probably 6 to 7 weeks, SmackDown has only filled the arena by like half.
Right.
And I don't know that this good show tonight is not a response to that. If Vince McMahon sees that shit is bad, Vince McMahon turns up the volume.
Yep.
He's not stupid. You know, this is the guy that created what we watch today. No matter what company is promoting, whether it's MLW, TNA, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, they all take something from what Vince McMahon... You know, they can diss Vince McMahon all they want, but every single one of these fucking companies does something that Vince McMahon has done over the past 30 years.
Well, and not to even mention that, but okay, look, you know, the fact is that All In was great. It was fun. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. A lot of people enjoyed it. But the fact is that they're not they're not doing that, you know, consecutively each week like WWE is.
Right. And,
you know,
and I'm not trying to diss All In. It was a decent wrestling show. My analogy of it was, if you are looking for a pay-per-view independent wrestling style show, it was great. It had everything an independent wrestling show has. It had a match with a high spot. It had some dick jokes. It had a women's match. It had a tag team match. It had a hardcore match. It had the booker putting himself over in the championship match. But overall, it was just a really big independent show. And I think that show, again, I'm not hating on it. It was a good show. But All In is only getting as much praise as it's getting because the internet wrestling community wants to praise something that isn't WWE.
Yep. And the fact is that when WrestleMania comes around, everyone books their shit around fucking WWE.
That and everybody that was in All In is going to be at WrestleMania. And they're going to be at the Raw after WrestleMania.
Yep.
But they're going to bitch about it.
Yep.
So anyway,
just I guess I'm with you. Just shut up and fucking enjoy it. Let your suspension of disbelief fucking go for however long, because at the end of the day, guys, guess what? It's a fucking work.
Yes. And that's not to say we can't have conversations about the show, and that's not to say we can't be critical of it. But I just get so sick and tired of people constantly complaining about how bad it is, but still watching it. It really annoys me. Like, I think you can complain about certain things about the show, like Hell in a Cell. You know, we gave credit where credit was due. There were some fantastic matches on the show, and then we dogged that main event because that finish was bullshit. You know, I mean, it is what it is. You can criticize, but to be eternally critical of something that you still religiously watch every week is just silly to me.
Well, and here's the other thing. This isn't 1998. This isn't fucking even 2006, where it was $50 for every pay-per-view. You're getting every pay-per-view for $9.99 a month, plus all the goddamn extra shit that goes with it.
All the shit you liked back in the 80s and 90s. You can watch it.
So, you know, it's really not costing you. You're pretty much getting the pay-per-views for free because whether the pay-per-views were on the WWE network or not, I'd still own it because of all the old shit.
I tell my wife I tell her all the time, WWE Network is the best $10 I spend every single month.
Yep.
I mean, because like you said, I get to watch all the modern pay-per-views, and I can go back and watch the shit I really like from the 80s and 90s. So, yeah. I don't know. Just wanted to get my little bitch out there about the internet wrestling community and their bitchiness.
Yeah, we love them. They're fucking great.
Yes, yes. And now, tell me, Kyle, if you were going to make a mixtape of matches, angles, any promotion, any time frame, anything, what are you putting on that sumbitch?
All right. So here's what we're going to have to do, because there's no way we could do this in fucking order, because it's, you know, this isn't going to be your traditional fucking pay-per-view thing where, you know, goddamn, you have opening matches and everything else. So for all intents and purposes, just, they're not in any order.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But the first thing that I would put on there is Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from SummerSlam 1994.
Cage match.
Yes. Such a good fucking story. Yes. Such a good match.
Possibly, I mean, you'd have to go back through and look through a lot of matches, but possibly the best cage match ever. Not a drop of blood.
Nope. And it was perfect because you had the Hart family there, you had Neidhart there, you had the story that anybody and everybody could fucking believe in. The two brothers. Who's the better of the two?
Right.
And we're going to put it in a cage so that way nobody can interfere, and we'll find out once and for all who's the better of the brothers.
Mm-hmm. Good match.
Very good match. If you guys have not watched it in years, go back and watch it. Watch that whole pay-per-view. It's fun. Even though fucking Undertaker versus Undertaker's kind of corny, it's fun.
At the beginning of the show, it's great because they introduce Vince McMahon introduced the host of WrestleMania or SummerSlam '94, and it's the Macho Man Randy Savage. And he comes to the ring and he says, "I'm going to go do the thing in the ring." And Vince McMahon says, "He's going to do the thing in the thing."
and also one person, Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen. I knew what you meant.
So that right there is worth the fucking price of admission.
I'm on the case, and he's standing on the case. It's one. I fucking love that kind of humor anyway, slapstick humor, and
I love the beginning or the lead up to that when he was like, it was at the pool catching rays. He's like, sorry, Ray. He's like, the women were feeling macho. We're like, hell, macho. He's like, easy. It's family entertainment. Oh, fuck. It's so great.
But yeah, Brett and Owen, great main event for that pay-per-view because we like to ignore the Undertaker match. So Brett and Owen was the main event.
Yep.
And, yeah, an awesome cap-off to an awesome feud.
All right, so next, what I would do is I'm going to go to Sasha Banks versus Bayley from NXT TakeOver.
Good stuff.
You want to talk about women's wrestling, women's revolution? This right here is it.
Well, I mean, and to be honest with you, and I've said this for 3 years, 4 years, probably 4 years, probably since either 14 or 15, one of the two. I am a huge fan of Drew McIntyre. I am a huge fan of AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. I think that bell to bell in pro wrestling right now, when given a main event opportunity, given a highlight match, I don't know why she's so underutilized. I think that, and it's the first time I've ever said this, the best wrestler in the world is a woman, and it's Sasha Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Sasha Banks is the best wrestler in the world right now. She's not given the opportunity to show that. But if you watch that match between her and Bayley, you'll see it. And I wholeheartedly agree with your decision to put that on your mixtape because it's a great match.
And like I said, it's women's wrestling at its finest.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking heel versus babyface at its finest. There has been very few matches in this modern era where I fucking, felt the fucking babyface. Right. That, I was almost in tears when she won.
Like, people like to mock Sasha when she brings up Eddie Guerrero, but in the ring, she really does personify the work ethic of Eddie Guerrero.
Yep.
And, yeah. Like, I'm not as big a fan of Bayley as I am of Sasha. I love Bayley when she works Sasha.
Don't get me wrong. Because it's that perfect baby face.
Yeah. I'm not near as big a fan of her as Sasha, but yeah, you're right. That match is gold. It's gold.
Well, and I think really, truly, it's what has worked all these years. You listen to Ric Flair. The reason why he had so many great matches is the heel leads the match.
Right.
And if you have a good heel who knows what they're doing, then they can lead a babyface to a great match. And I truly believe that Sasha led Bayley to a great match.
And you support that with a good story.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree.
All right. So now we're going to shake things up a little bit. We're going to have ourselves a Piper's Pit.
Oh.
Yep, we're going to be doing a Piper's Pit with Stone Cold Steve Austin from WrestleMania 21. God damn, do I love this Piper's Pit.
Me too. The two guys shoot on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carlito comes down.
Yes.
And one of the best lines of the whole thing goes to Carlito, actually. And I'll let you. I'm kind of taking over here, but I just
no. Go ahead.
It has always stuck out to me because Stone Cold. It's either Stone Cold or Piper. One of the two says, because Carlito tells them, "You two need to go on down to the back." And
I think it's Piper that says,
one of them says, "So you just want us to go ahead and get out of here then?" And Carlito goes, "I don't care what you do. just get out of here."
And like I said, the great thing about it was not only do you have Stone Cold and Piper, but then you have a new guy who's new.
Mm-hmm.
Which
is how you used to do things in pro wrestling. You use the vets to put over the new guys.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, Austin telling Piper with your little kilt, your little boots, your little fuzzy gimmicks.
Am I supposed to be intimidated by you?
And then Piper, Vince McMahon, you like him, you hate him, you're for him, you're against him, you're for him. Yeah.
Well, and like I said, it starts off great because you have Piper, this is Welcome to Piper's Pit, and slaps Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Austin who slaps fucking Piper. It's like, thanks for having me, you little bastard. And Piper's like, I think I like you.
Yes.
And honestly, and wholeheartedly, I've never been a big fan of Austin's wrestling. He's not... How do I want to say this where it doesn't fucking piss people off? Austin is not a great wrestler and ring technician.
Okay.
He was prior to the neck injury.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Austin got to where he was because he was one of the best. But after after the neck injury and when he became Stone Cold Steve Austin, he's actually probably next to Hogan the best guy that worked his gimmick into making him better than he was. And the reason I say that is you watch early Hogan, like Japan Hogan. He could wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Austin. He could wrestle. But once they figured out they didn't need to because their personality and their gimmick got them over more than their wrestling ever could, they didn't. And you know what? Fuck it. God bless them.
And that's what I was going to put on here is that I more enjoyed Austin when he's interacting with the fans and the out of ring segments and stuff.
Right.
So that's why like I said, people would say Bret Hart versus Austin at Mania, which is great, but for my money, Austin was fucking brilliant on the mic, going toe-to-toe with somebody.
Yes, I will say this, not to do any spoilers. Yeah, there's not an Austin match. There's not an Austin match on my list, but there's an Austin segment on my list. Because he was a fantastic sports entertainer, more than he ever was an actual bell-to-bell wrestler.
Exactly. But speaking of pro wrestling, we're going to go to one of the greatest matches, in my personal opinion, of WCW.
Okay.
We're going to go Macho Man versus Diamond Dallas Page from Spring Stampede 1997.
Good match.
Very good match. These two fucking tear it up.
And once again, it's one of those things where the match was great, but it was even better because before the match they told a great story. Yep. Like that is honestly, out of the entire history of WCW, that is one of the greatest feuds in WCW history. And the funny thing is, from what I understand from listening to different podcasts and stuff, a lot of the people in power, like a Bischoff or a Sullivan or whatever, didn't even want it. Savage said, I want to work with DDP. And that's how it started, because, he had fucking stroke. So that's how it all started. He said, I want to work with DDP. And it turned out to be one of the best pieces of business they ever did. And I don't remember... I've always been more of a WWF, WWE guy. Whereas my brother was always more of a WCW guy. And I don't remember WCW things. Like, I have a great memory for WWF. Like, somebody asks me what pay-per-view did this match take place and what happened and everything, and I can rattle that shit off like nobody's business. I'm not like that with WCW, but Page and Savage is something from WCW that is like that for me because it was so good.
Right. Speaking of WCW, we're going to go to... We have mentioned that it was one of their best feuds. Now, in my opinion, we're going to go to a feud that I think was even better. Okay, so starting off, we're going to have ourselves a Battle Royal Cruiserweight match.
I know where you're going with this.
Mm-hmm. SummerSlam 1998. We have a Cruiserweight Battle Royal match. Chris Jericho's out there doing fucking commentary as all the wrestlers come out. And it's goddamn gold. And the last two wrestlers come down to Syncope.
He says, just for the record, he says, El Dandy looks like Lou Ferrigno. just to get that out there and make sure that it's recorded for posterity. That's fucking funny.
But it comes down to Syncope versus Juventud Guerrera.
Uh-huh.
And Juventud and Syncope have a conversation. Juventud jumps over the top rope, and everyone's like, what in the hell? Syncope unmasks himself, and it's Dean fucking Malenko. And the crowd goes goddamn nuts.
It is one of the biggest pops in WCW ever. Ever.
Because up to this point, Dean Malenko says, I'm going home. And you had Jericho out there for weeks, bad-mouthing him, bad-mouthing his dad, Boris.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go on to a Cruiserweight match, and Dean Malenko beats Chris Jericho. And like any great story, it continues on because Jericho says, well, no, that's not fair because I wasn't ready.
Yeah, and he was pretending to be somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's funny because with all the moments of WCW, especially during the Monday Night Wars, when WWE now talks about WCW and they present things from WCW and everything, they forget this for some reason. And I don't know why, because this is, from what I remember back then, to be honest, this was one of the biggest, most over moments in that entire run in WCW.
Yep.
Like, people loved them some Dean fucking Malenko and Chris Jericho.
And like I said, and they were not top stars. That's the thing people don't seem to understand is that they fucking did this when you had Macho Man. This is 1998. You had Goldberg. You had Sting. You had Hogan. You had Macho, Flair, everybody.
You had the NWO. Oh,
and still, fucking Dean Malenko and Chris Jericho were able to have as big a fucking reaction being in mid-carders and probably a better fucking story than most of the other guys.
Not probably. Definitely.
Definitely. All right. So I think it's time that we have ourselves another in-ring promo and stuff.
Right.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to have the reformation of the Four Horsemen and the return of Ric Flair to WCW after his lawsuit.
Fire me. I'm already
fired. Fucking Arn Anderson is fucking brilliant in this.
Oh, yeah, when he's like, what a goof.
Yeah.
What a goof. I almost forgot.
The emotion on Flair's face...
Well,
it's fucking brilliant.
It's like Bischoff says, controversy creates cash. You know, they took something that was a real life situation and they translated that into high-rated, good money television.
Yep.
And it's hard to believe when you watch that Nitro. It's from September of 1998. It is hard to believe that within 6 months that company was fucking... tits
on
up.
the down spiral.
Tits up.
It's fucking amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But that was that may be the last great moment of WCW.
It might be. I fucking, and real quick to go on a fucking side tangent here. Arn Anderson was so goddamn good on the mic. He doesn't get his fucking credit.
No, he doesn't.
I love him in this fucking thing when he's like, fine, if you guys want it, fine. Careful what you ask for, because we don't wear white hats. We're not good guys.
Mm-hmm.
You want the Four Horsemen back? Are you sure?
Right. Good stuff.
All right. So then from there, we're going to go to Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 25.
All right. So you finally hit something that's on my tape. It is the... I don't know if you'd ever call it the great. I don't know, because again, wrestling being art and art being subjective. I don't know if everyone would call it the greatest match of all time. But I will definitely say this: I don't know that anybody would argue that it's not the greatest WrestleMania match of all time.
The fact that you have the light versus the dark. You have Shawn Michaels ascending from heaven. You have Undertaker rising from hell. One's wearing white, one's wearing black.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go on to have just... Fuck. It's Shawn Michaels and Undertaker WrestleMania 25. It's fucking good.
Two of the greatest of all time in front of 70,000 people, having one of the greatest matches ever, and... to, again, my opinion, the best WrestleMania match ever. And granted, full disclosure, Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler of all time. But these two guys did everything that pro wrestlers are supposed to do to have a good match. They put it all in one match, and it's the best. If you're a wrestling fan, it's the best 25 minutes you'll ever spend.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, so from there, we got 3 left.
Mm-hmm.
They're all going to be matches, and they all, to me, tell a fucking story. Fuck it. So first off, we're going to go... Personally, this is one of my favorite matches of all time. It's Triple H versus Cactus Jack at Royal Rumble 2000.
A great match.
It's
with a great build. And once again, it is, I say this all the time, but you look at the beginning of Austin when he won the championship and he wrestled Mick Foley, and you look at The Rock and he wrestled Mick Foley, and you look at Triple H and he wrestled Mick Foley. A lot of people made their main event reputations wrestling Mick Foley.
And not even just them, but Edge, Orton.
Right. Yeah, so many people. And this match, this series, but most importantly, to be honest, this match was what made Triple H as a main event guy. Like, he was the champ, but people weren't sure about him being the champ. And then they put him in this program with Foley. And Mick Foley, and I'm not discounting the talent of Triple H. Triple H is a great wrestler. As much as people like to hate on him, to me, to be honest, you look at his body of work, and he really will go down as one of the best of all time. Not as good as he thinks he is. He's not the greatest of all time like he thinks he is, but he will go down as one of the best of all time. And his series with Foley, especially this match, is one of the main reasons why he did not quickly become irrelevant as a champion.
And this is at a time when Austin is gone because of a neck injury. And the fact that they were able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they were... Because it... Really, at this time, this was the beginning of The Rock rising to fame. This was the beginning of, Jericho and all that. It was the beginning of the rise. You had all these guys coming up at the same time, all wanting that spot.
Right.
And it's so fucking good. And, and quite honestly, this is one of my favorite times. I like the Austin era. Don't get me wrong. It's great. The problem is that it was so fucking bland because you knew Austin was going to win the Royal Rumble. You knew... I mean, in 1998, it was all about Austin. You knew Austin was going to be the centerpiece. And at this time, it was, who knows who's going to be the centerpiece.
It was kind of like that time after, like 93 after Hogan.
Yes. And I like those eras. I like those times when it's like you can't really call it.
Right. Yeah, wrestling's fun when it's not predictable.
All right, so from there, we're going to go to a match that I think that chances are it might be on your list. It might not be, but we're going to go to WrestleMania 17, the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boys.
It is not on my list, but it's a very good call.
It's a fucking TLC match. It is the fucking the coming out party for all three of those teams. They would be able to fucking hang their hat on that for years to come.
That match is an unfortunately wonderful thing. And I'm going to say that to say this. Those 6 guys in their run as opposing tag teams in the WWE did stuff that no one had ever seen before. They innovated the business. They changed the business. They wowed us. Like, you would watch those matches back then with wonder and amazement as a wrestling fan. Like, this is some of the coolest shit I have ever seen in my entire life. Okay, so that was 2000 and 2001. In 2018, I want to line them all up and smack them across the face. And the reason I say that is because now, I mean, evidenced by tonight's pay-per-view or any pay-per-view you see now, how commonplace is it for someone to take a table from under the ring? Or how commonplace is it for someone to get a ladder out and fucking jump off of it?
Yep.
It innovated so much, and they deserve so much respect, and they deserve so many props. But like I said, on the other hand, you're just like, fuck, you desensitized it forever.
Yep. Well, and like I said, it's not so much of the fact of the pay-per-view itself or the match itself, crazy spots. It's the fact that, like, those guys rejuvenated the tag team division.
Yes. And I'm not hating on it at all.
No, yeah.
I look at everything. I look at everything in the moment. As you get older, you realize time is a weird thing. Like, time is just so weird. Like, I watched the main event from February, I think it was February 3rd of 1989 today. Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, when they first start building the build for WrestleMania 5, and Savage goes apeshit on Hogan back in the back, and Liz is in and I know I'm getting off topic here, but
no.
What I'm saying to younger people is as you get older, time is a weird thing, because to me, that watching it doesn't seem like that long ago.
No, it doesn't.
But when I was 10 and somebody and the WWF would show a match on TV with Bruno Sammartino, and this is 1988, and this match happened in 1981, and it was only 7 years ago, I'm like, Jesus, this is old. What are these old guys on TV for? Time is a weird thing. And that's why I say I look at everything now at its moment in time. And when it comes to that match at WrestleMania 17, I can watch that today. And if my son watched it, he would go, okay, well, that's what I see every week when we watch wrestling, Dad. But when I watch it, I see, holy fucking shit. You know? Like, it's still fresh in your mind, even though it's fucking, what, 18 years ago, 17 years ago. And then because of that, because that's still fresh in your mind, when I'm watching it, watching Edge go through a table because of Bubba Dudley is different than watching Roman Reigns go through a table because of Braun Strowman.
Exactly. And a perfect example is like WrestleMania 10, Shawn versus Razor. Mm-hmm. By the standards, that ladder match would just be...
It was revolutionary then. We had never seen anything like that.
It was fucking crazy. Yes. It was nuts.
Yes. You watch it now and it seems tame.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And then finally, this would be the main event. This is going to be the last match. To me, I think if you have a wrestling mixtape, this has to be the main event, because there's never been, and there never will be, a better fucking story than between these two. Vince McMahon versus Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 19.
It has one of the most iconic moments to me in wrestling history.
Yep.
Vince McMahon and looking over the ring apron into the ring with his beady eyes and his evil expression at Hulk Hogan. And it also has one of my favorite commentating lines ever. When they're outside the ring and Vince is going up on top of that table and he's going to jump down he's going up on top of the ladder and he's going to jump down onto Hogan through the table. Taz says, well, if you're going to do it, old man, do it. Iconic.
And like I said, the build up to this is you have a story that is
real.
20 years in the making.
Real.
Yes.
When they cut promos on each other, that shit was real. Like Vince McMahon saying, "You tried to put me out of business."
It's Vince McMahon saying, "I made Hulkamania," and Hulk saying, "No, I made Hulkamania."
Well, and with men like that, in positions like that of power and the egos, you can say all you want every single day, and I know they did. I don't know Vince McMahon, I don't know Hulk Hogan, but I know enough about them to know that those two guys have huge egos, and I know enough to know that when they were booking this every single night, yes, folks, they were sitting down with writers and they were putting this shit into promos, and they were organizing and orchestrating all of this for all of us to entertain us. But I promise you that they were very much semi-shooting about this. Real emotion went into this story. Vince McMahon really did think that Vince McMahon really did think that Hulk Hogan sold him down the river and tried to put him out of business.
Yep.
And Hulk Hogan really did think that Vince McMahon was an egomaniac that wanted to take all the credit for his success. So yes, it was a story. Yes, they are quote-unquote friends. Yes, they can get along. Yes, they can work a match. They can work an angle. But there was a lot of real in that storyline.
The greatest rivalries have always been this. It's a tad of real mixed in.
Yeah.
Bret versus Shawn, Dusty versus Rick.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Owen versus Bret.
Bret, yes.
I mean, you can say what you want about how much they loved each other. I mean, I love Aaron, but at the end of the day, we probably have some things that if it ever came out in a professional thing, we could be like, hey, I want to work this into an angle because I've always thought blah blah blah. I've always thought that in any kind of social situation, even though he shouldn't because he doesn't have a filter, Aaron tries to take over. But I mean, I love him. I would take a bullet for him. He's my brother. But he he tries too hard to take the spotlight. but I mean, you take that little bit of real. You take that, even no matter how much you care for somebody, no matter how much you love somebody, everybody has something they resent everybody for.
Exactly. And the best thing about it is, it's like, look, I'm going to call this out on you because I know that you're going to call stuff out on me. Right.
And we're not going to take any of it personally because we're going to get big, fat fucking paychecks. When it's over.
Exactly. Like I said, to me, Hogan and Vince, it is the greatest story ever told because it is truly the Austin McMahon feud, but in real life.
Right.
And to me, like I said, if I was going to show a wrestling fan that would be the match that I would end it with. But like, check this out, because this is two guys who built the WWF, made it what it is now, and the two are going to come against each other. It's the fucking irresistible force meeting the immovable object.
The irresistible ego meeting the immovable ego.
Immovable ego.
Right. Exactly.
So, like I said, to me, it's hard not to. I know it's not a championship match or anything, but
Doesn't matter.
no. Sometimes championships don't mean as much as a personal blood feud like that. So,
good mixtape.
Thank you.
And I would watch it. And right now we will take a break. We'll come back. And
go
ahead.
Sorry, I was going to just say, fans, anybody that listens to us, if you've not seen Undertaker versus Shawn at WrestleMania 25, the fact that it's on both of ours, you should probably go fucking watch it.
Yeah, first of all, are you living under a fucking rock? And second of all, go watch that shit as soon as you're done listening to this podcast, by the way. Not now, but when I'm done.
Right. Yes, go watch it, because like I said, there's a reason why it spawned both of ours. So
exactly. That being said, we'll take a quick break because Nate wants to smoke a cigarette. I sound like Aaron. Let's smoke.
Well,
no,
you haven't played fucking music. That's the thing that I love. I was joking with him about that the other day. I
haven't let anybody in on what I'm watching on YouTube while everybody else is talking.
That's why I told us, like, you could tell when Aaron gets done with his list because he loses all fucking sense of fucking
checked out.
Just...
As the executive producer, I need to talk to him about that.
It cracks me up.
Look, motherfucker, for 3 hours, could you be engaged, please?
You'd be like, yeah, man, that Brett versus Shawn match was really great. You just hear in the background, fuck Cotton Eye Joe. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing over there?
It's so true. And if we were in a wrestling angle, I would bring it up in a pseudo shoot interview. So we will be right back with more of the We Can't Wrestle podcast on Podbean. And when we come back, I will do my wrestling mixtape here on episode 50 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Kyle and Nate here with you on episode 50, wrestling mixtapes.
So fucking cool that we've done 50.
Yours was good. I would watch it.
Oh, I got a feeling that yours is going to be great as well.
Well, to be perfectly honest, the last thing that I would have put on my mixtape was Shawn Michaels and Undertaker from WrestleMania 25. So we will just knock that off the list because we have discussed it, and it's the best match. Maybe not the greatest wrestling match of all time, but definitely the greatest WrestleMania match of all time. So, if I'm giving you my wrestling mixtape, the first thing you're going to see, Kyle, is the Dusty Rhodes Hard Times video. The Dusty Rhodes Hard Times promo. Everybody that knows me knows that of all the people in professional wrestling, Dusty Rhodes, maybe not my favorite wrestler, but he was definitely my favorite promo. And that Hard Times promo, again, watch everything that you're watching within the time frame that it took place. Be cognizant of the fact that you're watching it in that moment in time. The Dusty Rhodes Hard Times promo is possibly the greatest wrestling promo ever cut. You put hard times on my family.
You know, I got a feeling I'm going to say this a lot, but I'm kicking myself in the ass for not having that on mine. Because that is a very good fucking poll.
You got a worker that's been working at the factory for 30 years. You kick him in the butt, give him a watch, and tell him his computer took his job. I mean, it is just... If you're a professional wrestler and you are trying to relate to your fans,
audience.
Yes, your audience. could you speak better words than he spoke in that promo?
No. There's not a way, because everyone can relate to that.
Yeah, except Dusty Rhodes. Which is even greater. He's sitting on his big fat paycheck talking about hard times, baby.
Hard times because I put it on myself.
God bless him. Who's the best politician in wrestling, Vince McMahon or Dusty Rhodes? You know what I mean?
I gotta say fucking Dusty Rhodes.
He worked everything to his advantage, including the polka dots.
Yeah, and again, fucking, go back and listen to Eric Bischoff's podcast. He talks about how fucking Dusty Rhodes was fucking man enough to take those polka dots and fucking wear them.
Yep.
Because he knew, okay, this is gonna fucking get me, national exposure, and
he was a fucking businessman.
Yep.
And yeah, so that promo, I mean, it just resonates with me. It's my favorite promo in wrestling history. You talk about putting asses in seats. That's the point of a promo. And that match put some asses in some seats.
Well, and that was the thing, too. And I know that we have a lot of fans, and, some of them are younger and stuff, and I don't mean to be that guy that's, back in my day, but back then you had to fucking be able to talk people into fucking the seats, because they were running the same fucking towns.
The business was not like it is now. It was a house show business. You were trying to put butts in seats.
And you didn't make jack shit unless people came.
Exactly. It wasn't like the WWE is today, where the house shows are secondary, or even the pay-per-views are second. I mean, wrestling now is a TV show. Wrestling now is Law and Order, Criminal Minds. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just another TV show.
Yep.
Back then, it was not that way, and Dusty Rhodes could put some asses in some seats. As Jim Ross would say, an ass every 18 inches. If you got a 3-foot ass, you're a big motherfucker.
And Dusty had a big fat ass.
Yeah, baby.
And
Hard
he could
times.
shake that motherfucker and
dancing in polka dots, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Next on my tape would be my favorite ladder match of all time. And no, it's not Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. And it's not even the TLC match from WrestleMania 17.
I got a feeling I know what it is.
And everybody who knows me knows what a big fucking mark I am for Eddie Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero in a ladder match at SummerSlam 2005 for the custody of Dominic.
It's a good match.
It was a good match. It was a good angle.
Eddie and Ray go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Absolutely. It was, and a lot of people harken back to their Halloween Havoc 96 match as their best match. But I really think that this match was their best match. And I brought it up. I mean, it's predictable. It's on my mixtape because I brought it up on this podcast probably 10 times. Because it is one of my favorite matches ever. Like, even forgetting the storyline, the match itself is fantastic, but you add the story in, and I think these two told a great story. They had a great storyline, and there was emotional investment, and the drama surrounding the match, and then the match itself. I mean, it is two pros doing what they do, and it's probably, it is in my top 10 matches ever, and if you're going to watch a ladder match, this is the match I want you to watch.
I think with Eddie Guerrero and Ray, it is one of those things where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're the kind of wrestlers that they can have a match, and you're like, that was their fucking greatest match ever, until the next one.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
So, yeah, Halloween Havoc was great until, the next match they had, and then until this. I mean, it's just, those two were made for each other.
They just kept topping themselves. And, I mean, you have Rey Mysterio, who's one of the best bell-to-bell in-ring performers ever. And then you have Eddie Guerrero, who is, although people don't bring him up in the conversations like they should, I'm going to be honest. As far as captivating me and entertaining me and pulling me into the television, he is with me as a sports entertainer. He's up there with Dusty and Austin and Shawn Michaels and The Rock. He is one of the top 10 best entertainers in wrestling history. Like, Eddie Guerrero, for me, is the fucking shit. Like, he's on my list, man. He's my top 10. Like, if you're going to tell me for the rest of your life you can only watch the work, whether it be promos, matches, anything, of 10 guys, Eddie Guerrero is going to be on that list.
Fair enough. And you've said time and time again that he is your feel-good guy.
He is. Heel or face. No matter what he is, I smile when I watch Eddie Guerrero. And up there with Owen Hart and Bobby Heenan, when I found out that he passed away, he's one of the few guys that I actually shed a tear. Like, literally. Yep. And I don't get wrapped up in TV performers, actors, wrestlers, anybody like that. Like, personally, except for a select few. And when Owen Hart died, I cried. When Bobby Heenan died, I cried. And when Eddie Guerrero died, I cried. So, yep. All right, so next on my tape is, when I did the recent episode of the show where I watched wrestling with my wife, who is, she's not a wrestling fan. Shameless plug, my beautiful wife and co-host of the Motley Soup podcast, also available on Podbean, Kindle. We did an episode of the show where I had her watch a couple of matches. She watched some matches with me, and we're going to do another one of those sometime soon. But beside the point, I took a non-wrestling fan who watches it casually with me. You know, she knows who people are, but she doesn't really give a shit, etc., etc. But if you want to find someone, if you want someone in your life to watch a wrestling match, what's the first match you have them watch, Kyle? And I'm going to tell you what it is for me, because this is next on my tape. It was the first wrestling, when her and I first got together, it was the first match she ever watched.
I know who one of the guys in it.
Okay.
Was Undertaker.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Undertaker versus Kane?
No. It is Undertaker and Mankind. Hell in a Cell. That's the first match.
Oh.
If you want someone who's going, you watch that fake wrestling, to watch a match to prove that you ain't watching no fake wrestling.
God, yeah.
You have them watch Taker and Foley, Hell in a Cell from 1998. And the funny thing about it is, not only for us wrestling fans is it, Taker, Foley, Hell in a Cell 98 for wrestling fans is, first of all, old hat, but also holy ground. That is sacred ground for a hardcore wrestling fan. But the reason you show it to a non-wrestling fan is because it's the match that comes to your mind first when you want to say, I want to prove to somebody who's not a wrestling fan that wrestling is fixed, but it's not fake.
Right. That is, well, like you said.
But yeah, that's what you show a non-wrestling fan when you show them that wrestling is not fake, it's fixed.
Well, yeah, because and try to explain to them too, it's like this, we watched that live.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the time, no one knew.
Oh yeah, I remember where I was when I watched that. You know, like I was with my buddy, a guy I grew up with. I was at his house. We were watching in his attic. I mean, this is. I mean, kids today couldn't understand, but we were watching in his attic on a shitty ass TV on pay-per-view, thinking this is just going to be another routine pay-per-view. This match is going to suck because we've seen it a million times. Taker and Mankind, and yeah, it was just. I mean, there was a lot going on there.
Right. I'm sorry. I don't mean to change the subject real quick, but has it really been a year since we lost Bobby Heenan?
Yes. I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring that up in part of my tape here, but yes, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, that's okay. That's all right.
I happened to see what date it was, and that it had been a year, and I was like, Jesus.
Yes, the world has sucked for a year.
Yeah. But
all right. So next on my list, after Foley and The Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell match at King of the Ring 1998, we're going to go to May of 1989. And there are listeners to this show because I know people that follow this show on Facebook, and so I know how old you are and whatever. If you haven't gone on the WWE Network and gone back in time and watched what our greatest matches, then you may not have seen this. 1989, it's May of 1989. It is the last of a trilogy of some of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. You know, modern wrestling fans talk about Omega Okada and their trilogy of matches. But as an 11-year-old boy, I watched mostly WWF. But something that was in the NWA/WCW at the time that captured my imagination was Ric Flair and Rick Steamboat. And what I would put on the tape would be their last match in 1989 of their trilogy of matches, and that is from Wrestle War 89 in Nashville, Steamboat versus Flair. Steamboat versus Flair is the old wrestling fans' equivalent to Okada and Omega for modern wrestling fans.
it's the stuff made a legend.
Yes, it's the greatest trilogy of matches ever. And the last match is my favorite because not only is it a fantastic match where Flair wins, but at this point in the angle, it's the story. But at this point in the story, they've gained a respect for each other. They don't, quote-unquote, hate each other anymore. They fought each other so much that they've gained a respect for each other. And they have a fucking, 40-minute, absolutely fantastic match. And then after the match, you have the Ric Flair-Terry Funk angle. And so you have this amazing match to cap off this absolutely amazing feud. And then after it, you have what is a wrestling angle. Like just a fantastic angle. And the whole thing is the complete wrestling package.
It absolutely is, because, and that's the great thing about wrestling is you get that feel good moment for a minute,
mm-hmm.
and then it's on to the next.
Yes, exactly. And then the nasty, dastardly heel takes that feel good moment away from you. So yeah, I mean, if you kids have not gone back and watched Steamboat and Flair from '89, all three matches, watch the entire feud. You can find it on YouTube. You don't have to search through the network. It's there. I'm sure it's there. Watch the whole rivalry and all 3 of their epic matches, and you will see what pro wrestling is supposed to be. And
very good pick.
I had a debate in my mind because I had everything else picked, and I wanted to pick, because I love Flair so much, I wanted to pick something that was his. And I had a decision. I had to decide whether I wanted to pick this or whether I wanted to pick Rumble 92.
Oh.
And I picked this because as much as Rumble 92 is awesome and as much as it's one of the greatest moments in wrestling history, I really, honest to God, think that Ric Flair's best moments occurred away from Vince McMahon. Even though Rumble 92 is just one, the Royal Rumble 92 match and the promo after it are some of the best pro wrestling ever on television. But Ric Flair's best, it's funny because he's one of the few wrestlers, but Ric Flair's best stuff was done outside of Vince McMahon's vision.
Well, and that's because, you're talking NWA versus WWF.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about, the NWA was about a heel champion making the babyface contender.
Yes.
And it was reversed with WWF.
Right, because Vince McMahon doesn't book that way.
No, and again, it's chocolate and vanilla, but,
mm-hmm.
Look at how many people that Ric Flair made.
So, yeah. And like I said, it was just a matter of, if I'm making a mixtape and I want to put Ric Flair on it, what Ric Flair do I want to put on it? And it was that Ric Flair. It was Ric Flair and Steamboat. And that narrowly edged out Ric Flair 92. So the next thing on my tape, we're going to an angle. We're going to a non-wrestling angle. I do not exactly know. I didn't write down the date, but it is from 1997. It's shortly after WrestleMania 13. And it is, to anything I could ever say, in a non-match angle, in a match that is, or in an angle that is not a match, or does not result from a match, in the history of wrestling, the greatest non-match angle ever done on television is the episode of Raw where you have the Steve Austin, Bret Hart ambulance angle. Dude, to me, more than Austin stunning Austin stunning McMahon, more than anything they did in the Attitude angle, this was the beginning of telling a wrestling story without even having to have a match. Like, that entire 2-hour show revolved around this angle. Austin comes out at the beginning of the show. They do the big countdown, etc., etc. They do an angle where Austin, fucks up Bret's knee in the ring, and then there's the ambulance. Bret's getting put in the ambulance. He's not really hardcore 100% a heel yet, but his heel brother-in-law and brother are it's just, you know what I mean? It's just the best fucking angle on TV.
They go over the cords.
Oh,
and
my.
Watches like, you idiot.
It is so fucking good. And then Austin's the ambulance driver and beats him up. We had never seen anything like that in 97. And that's what I'm saying, folks. Bischoff would say, context is king. You look at this contained in the time, on the day that it took place. As a young 97. As an 18-year-old wrestling fan, I was my jaw was dropping at this. I've never seen anything like this. It was absolutely gold.
That is a damn good pick.
It's probably in my top 5 episodes of Monday Night Raw ever. If not my favorite episode. Like, I really like the Austin McMahon, like the first episode after Austin becomes champion. I really like that episode. I really like, to be honest, the modern era, I really like the episode where Lesnar comes back in 2012. But yeah, that episode of Raw is probably my favorite episode of Raw ever, is the Austin Brett ambulance angle Raw.
You know, I think that's probably my favorite Austin era.
Mm-hmm.
When he had just started becoming Stone Cold, and there is a live wire, and if I can find it, I'll try to put it on the Facebook,
mm-hmm.
where it was right before Brett decides to come back, and Austin's on there, and it's fucking gold. Talking about fucking Brett. Saying, you know, I came, I beat up Stu, I beat you up down the dungeon.
Oh, good times. That we'll never get back. Okay. So next, number 6 on my mixtape is going to be what I call, maybe not even my favorite match of all time, but what I call the perfect wrestling match. It is on my top 10. If you go back and listen to the top 10 wrestling matches ever, where we all did our own top 10, it's there. I don't remember what number, but it's there. It's not number 1, but in my opinion, it is the best. It's not the best match of all time for my personal opinion, but to me, it is the perfect wrestling match. Babyface, heel, etc., etc. To me, the perfect wrestling match is from SummerSlam 91, and it's Bret Hart and Curt Hennig. I'm putting it on my tape. It's not my favorite match. It's not. My favorite match is Shawn and Taker at 25. But Bret Hart and Perfect at SummerSlam 91 is the perfect wrestling match. It is every single thing a wrestling match should be.
We talked a little bit earlier about Ray and Eddie being peanut butter and jelly. Fucking Bret and Mr. Perfect and Curt Hennig.
And unfortunately, they didn't get to do it as much as Eddie and Ray did.
No. But can you imagine?
Like, if Kurt would have been in better health. Well, first of all, what's crazy to think about, again, putting yourself in the context of time, if Kurt would have been in better health and not had to, have a back injury and collect his insurance policy and all that, the outcome of this match could have been completely different. Actually, the match may not have even happened. But even if you think about the match does happen, and Kurt's in good health, and you put Bret over, and he wins the title, imagine the fucking series of matches these guys could have had. Imagine the feud they could have had. And then, you flash forward to a couple of years later at King of the Ring 93, and then they have I don't think the match is better, but they have another classic. And like you said, I think you were alluding to saying, before I cut you off so rudely, imagine what could have been with these two.
It always felt like when you watched Bret and Curt Hennig wrestle, it felt like this is the future.
Right.
This is what we're heading towards. It's not the big giant guys anymore. It's the more technical based wrestlers. It's, for all intents and purposes, the reason why we have what we have today is because of guys like Brett and Mr. Perfect that weren't the giant Hulk Hogan's and everything.
Yeah, and I don't know, this match, I remember as a 13-year-old watching this match, my buddy's house, we're watching SummerSlam, and to be honest, at that time, 13 years old, I'm still a naive, young wrestling fan who's a Hulkamaniac. Okay? And I mean, I've been watching since '83 when I was 5. To let everybody know, the first time I actually got to meet Hulk Hogan in person. I don't know if you've ever seen that picture, Kyle, of me and Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
And I told him when we met, other than, Zig Heil and I support the Klan too, I don't. It was a joke. It was a tasteless joke, and I'm sorry. But anyway, to get close to Hulk, I had to do the Hitler symbol, so I did what I had to do. But I told Hulk Hogan when we met, I said, my first memory of pro wrestling is you. And he said, really, brother? He really did say that, really, brother? And I said, yes, my first memory of wrestling is right before you won the title from the Iron Sheik. You appeared on All Star Wrestling. I was watching on some channel when, 1983. I'm watching, and you and Bob Backlund fought the Samoans on a tag team match, and you weren't the champion yet, but the Iron Sheik was, or something. I just remember you and Bob Backlund against the Samoans, and that was my first interaction with pro wrestling. And he said, brother, I don't even remember that. And so my point is, from the beginning of my fandom of professional wrestling, it was Hulk Hogan. Okay? He was my first memory of wrestling. And that's why when I was a little dude, I was a Hulkamaniac. I mean, that was all I knew. And then I saw this match at 13 years old in 1991. And I was blown away. And Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect changed the way I thought about pro wrestling. It went from being a cartoon to being an art. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's why I would put that match on my mixtape. Anything else? I know you started talking and I cut you off like a rude fuck, like Aaron.
No. Like I said, this is your list and everything. I completely understand. Like I said, to me, it is what the future held.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the two, and how do I want to put this? It's pretty much.
It's like watching. I'm trying to put it in perspective for another generation. It's like watching. Okay, I'm thinking about modern wrestling. In 91, this is like watching the series of matches that AJ and Joe had in Ring of Honor 13 years ago.
Yep. They're so different, but yet so alike.
Right.
And you knew this is where it was headed.
This is where it's going. And it may sound silly to some, and it may sound completely familiar to others, because I don't think he gets enough credit for establishing what wrestling is now. But it's like thinking back to like 2002, 2003. Okay? And let me just digress here for a second, and then I'll go on to my next match.
No, go ahead, yeah.
But you go to Ring of Honor in 2003, 2004. I'm trying to get my time frame right in my mind. But you go back to that time, and you watch, and this guy does not at all get enough credit in modern wrestling for what he established in modern wrestling. But you go back and you watch when Jamie Noble was James Gibson in Ring of Honor. You watch the matches he had with Samoa Joe. You watch the matches he had with other people. That is the basis. That is what these guys we are watching now looked to as, well, fuck me running. That's what wrestling should be. Jamie Noble does not get the credit for what he is in wrestling. Like, as far as establishing a style and establishing a norm, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. I mean, the guy that did that first was Jamie Noble.
Yeah.
So, a long story short, very long story short, because we like long stories here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Just trying to put it in perspective for all generations that listen to the show. Bret and Owen, long story short, was something very, very different. If not different, because, you know, I mean, Steamboat and Flair, etc., etc. But as far as the WWF, Bret Hart and Curt Hennig being in a major league intercontinental championship match at a major pay-per-view and a major spotlight, that was eye-opening.
It's like, I don't know. It's almost like having the blinders taken off.
Yes.
Like, goddamn, this is what it can be?
Yes. Everybody's going ape shit when Bret wins the match. So yeah, Perfect and Hennig, definitely a defining moment, and definitely something I would put on my mixtape. Next, I got three more, because Michaels and Undertaker, again, from WrestleMania 25 was the last one on my list. So the next one on my list also involves Shawn Michaels, and it would be WrestleMania 21, Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle.
Oh, fuck. That is such a good fucking match.
It is. And it is... It is two guys from different schools of thought doing what pro wrestling does best, and that is taking people with different schools of thought and being able to form it into entertainment and making it work. That match is poetry. It is perfection. It's the best Olympic wrestler ever versus the best professional wrestler ever. Like, do you have a more idyllic match than that?
The sad part is we really never got too many more after that.
They had the match at Backlash, which was a decent match, but it was just a match with the purpose of giving Shawn his win back. It wasn't really anything more than that. It was more political.
Yeah.
But that match at WrestleMania 21 was the stuff of perfection. And once again, when my non-wrestling wife first got with me as a wrestling fan, I think probably... here's the funny story. I didn't get to relay this like I wanted to when we were talking about that Hell in a Cell match because we got off on a big discussion. But I had her watch that Foley Taker match, and the first thing she wanted to do, because we weren't living together at the time, obviously, we were just dating.
Right.
But one of the first things she wanted to do was borrow then, because this is before the days, folks, of the WWE Network, she wanted to borrow my Undertaker career DVD that I had. So, anyway, what I'm saying is she wanted to borrow that because you see something from a specific wrestler, and that makes that person your favorite wrestler.
Yep.
So another one of the things that I showed her first when I introduced her to pro wrestling was that match, Angle and Michaels at 21, and it was like 22 minutes long, and she watched the whole thing, and she also became a fan of Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. So... it is fantastic.
Like I said, there's so much goddamn wrestling out there.
Right.
And that's the point. It's all subjective. And, I'm sure next time when we have Aaron's list, we'll all go, oh, fuck, I can't believe we didn't put that on ours. But
right.
That's the point. There's so much out there, and
it's one of the best things about being a pro wrestling fan is you can have your favorite shit, and then your buddy can be like, well, what about this? And you're like, oh, god damn it.
It was so hard to fucking do this.
Yes. It took me, when did we decide this? Like a week and a half ago that we were going to do this?
I think so, yeah.
It took me up until tonight at like 6:30 to finalize my list because,
I
like
think
you said, there's so much.
Yeah, I think your direct response was, "Oh fuck, this is going to take some time."
Mm-hmm.
Because,
and then tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to edit the show and I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to go, well, fuck, why didn't I bring that up? And why didn't I bring that up? And that's the beauty of being a pro wrestling fan. It's better than any other thing you can watch on TV. It's better than a TV show. It's better than a sport. There's so much to choose from, and it encompasses so many different forms of entertainment that, you can't even stand it.
No, and that's the thing. And we, again, not to go off on a tangent and everything else, we have said time and time again, we're not fans of Joey Ryan. We're not
Mm-hmm.
I respect fans who like Joey Ryan. I understand it. I get it. It's chocolate and vanilla. If you like a dude fucking flipping dudes over with his dick, then hey, so be it. You're still a wrestling fan, and I get it.
Yes.
I choose to not partake in it because I think it's ridiculous. But the fact is that this is pro wrestling. It's no one says what it has to be, but yet everyone knows what it should be.
Yes.
You know what it's so fucking hard to tell people you like pro wrestling because they're like, oh, that WWE, and you're like, god damn it, it's not just WWE, it's
everything. I have 2 more on my tape, but since you're mailing out a tape to our listeners, wink wink nudge nudge, that has Undertaker and Michaels on it, I'm going to add one to mine.
okay.
I'm going to take Undertaker and Michaels off of mine, so my last one will be one that I added. It was actually, because I had like 5 other honorable mentions that I didn't add to my tape.
Fair
so
enough.
I'll just add one of them. So anyway, the next one that was on my tape is from 2001. It is... And the reason this is on my mixtape is it's a rarity in our it's a rarity in especially the modern, well, any wrestling business. But for those of us that have grown up in Vince McMahon, let's be honest, we've grown up in Vince McMahon's world. If you're listening, even if you're listening to this show and you're 50, you've grown up in Vince McMahon's world, okay? There's a lot of other shit that's on the sidelines, and et cetera, and there have been other competitors and blah, 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 but we've all grown up in Vince McMahon's world. Let's just be honest. Since 1985, this is Vince's world. You don't see this often in Vince's world, and that's why it's on my tape. And if you can watch it on YouTube, you should, because it's really fun. It's about, 12 minutes of TV. How about when Vince McMahon in 2001 on SmackDown before the Invasion pay-per-view let Paul Heyman shoot on him? Is that the stuff of legend or what? Just because Paulie was allowed to say whatever the fuck he wanted to say.
There's moments in time.
And he laid it in, folks.
Yes, he did. There is moments in time that are surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost passé to say that it's so surreal, but moments like this, when Paul Heyman, who was the owner of ECW, is able to shoot on Vince McMahon.
Woo.
Equally as crazy is Eric Bischoff showing up on Raw.
Yes,
but we're not talking about that. But the point is that for us who grew up, like you said, in Vince's world, and been watching wrestling since the early 90s, late 80s, and so on, and to have watched the war between WCW, WWF, ECW, and to see it all play out as it happened.
And then to watch Vince, the craziest thing about it is to watch Vince let someone do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Heyman's comments are controversial. They're whatever. They're make you shit your pants, whatever. The craziest thing about the whole thing, and go ahead and look it up on YouTube. It's there. Like 7 people have it on their YouTube. They haven't been shut down yet by WWE. But anyway, if you watch it, if you're really a wrestling fan, the thing that you think isn't, wow, Paul Heyman said some crazy shit. The thing that you think is, wow, Vince McMahon let Paul Heyman say that crazy shit.
Yep.
And, it's probably the most that Vince McMahon has ever legit let anybody break him down on television. And it's tough. It's some tough shit. So, yeah, that sticks out in my mind as one of the moments that I put on my mixtape.
That's a very good fucking moment.
Now, the next one, and this is the next one that was on my list, but not the honorable mentions. But because of Michaels and Taker, I'm going to move another one onto the list. But anyway, the next one was on my list because it highlights... Because I couldn't say, I want to take every funny moment from this guy and put it on the tape. Because that wasn't part of the project. So I'm taking what is the best of him and putting it into something he did in one night. Is listening to Bobby Heenan commentate at Survivor Series 93 during the Hearts versus Knights match. Yes, you know what I'm saying. Because I can't take it's cheating to take every funny thing, every comment from Bobby, you know what I'm saying. Like Bobby Heenan is something
sacred and holy ground to wrestling fans. So I can't say, well, I want to take Bobby's whole promo work and put it onto one thing. I have to pick one moment, so I'm going to say jokes-wise, humor-wise, interaction with Gorilla Monsoon. Just as a fan of his work in general, I'm just going to pick that match and let that commentary stand for itself.
Right.
Oh, is this the firefighter?
You know,
And
quite honestly,
the eighth of however many kids jokes just watch that match. I mean, the match is what it is. It's not great, but listen to Heenan during that match, and you will laugh your fucking ass off for 40 minutes.
You know, the greatest stick man. Watch his Hall of Fame induction.
Oh man,
you want to laugh?
I won't be insulted. I won't be insulted if you just throw cash.
Even when he couldn't speak, when he had all the infections and everything else, the man was still funny.
He just put up his middle finger and be funny. Like
there's a video where they're talking about his book, and they're talking about the British Bulldogs, and they're talking about their dog.
Mm-hmm.
And someone says, "Oh, didn't the dog bite you?" And you hear him, and he's motioning like no. He gives him the finger and says, "No, he humped me." And you can hear him, make out like the damn thing humped.
Right.
So, man was so fucking funny.
And he died a year ago today. And okay, if you didn't live through Bobby Heenan, even if you didn't live through Bobby Heenan, if you haven't watched Bobby Heenan, you're not a wrestling fan. Secondly, it is one of the few times where somebody passes away and you literally, as a wrestling fan, say in your head, wrestling will never be the same. It doesn't matter if he's been on TV for 10 years, 13 years, 20 years. Wrestling will never be the same without this man. Bobby Heenan, and I was going to bring this up. I wanted to bring this up if Aaron was on the show, but I'm going to bring it up now real quick. You look at the 1980s wrestling boom, and the two most important people to that, no matter what anybody says, they can throw out Piper, they can throw out Savage, they can throw out any name they want, but they will never convince me that the two most important people to that. I don't even care if Vince McMahon or Gene Okerlund. The two most important people to the 80s wrestling boom were Hulk Hogan and Bobby Heenan.
Yep.
Because everything revolved around Hulk Hogan and Bobby Heenan, because Hulk Hogan and Bobby Heenan were overall, all around, the two best performers of that era. Everything heel revolved around Bobby Heenan, whether it was Heenan's family, whether it was Heenan putting over a new heel, whether it was Heenan talking about Jimmy Hart, Slick, and all the other heel managers, no matter what it was, everything heel revolved around Heenan, and everything face revolved around Hogan. Without those two guys, that shit doesn't work.
In the history of wrestling, everyone has reconciled and became friends, and and everything else. As far as like storyline wise, everyone has come around and everything else. But Bobby Heenan always hated Hulk Hogan.
Yes, whether Hogan was a face or a heel. Actually, Bobby Heenan spoiled the NWO angle.
Yep. Without meaning to. Just because he knew that his character, no matter what, no matter who, heel or face, no matter what, his character hated Hulk
Hogan. And when Hulk Hogan turned it heel, he still hated Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
So, yeah. And speaking of that, the next thing on my list was going to be the number 1 thing on my tape, or the number 10 thing on my tape, or whatever, which was Michaels and Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. So I took number 11, which was one of my honorable mentions, and threw it in there, and that is Hulk Hogan joining the NWO.
You know, this is probably the biggest kicking myself in the ass. How in the fuck could I put a tape together without having this on there?
Yeah, so I could put it on mine?
Yeah, because goddamn, you're talking about a heel turn.
Well, and again,
the greatest heel turn.
Like I keep saying in this episode of the show, time frame. Like, nowadays it may not seem like a big deal, but I want you to put yourself into 1996. I want you to put yourself into a time where most of us, from the minute we were little kids, 4, 5, 6 years old, only remembered Hulkamania, brother. Only remembered saying your prayers, taking your vitamins, drinking your milk, etc., etc. Only remembered the red and the yellow. Hulk
the
Hogan.
Cheesy movies.
Yeah. What, Mr. Nanny?
Suburban Commando. He was on our fucking cereal boxes. He was on our cartoons.
And then he shit on our fucking moms' heads and spit in our faces and joined the NWO and turned bad guy. And it was... I don't even know anything in the modern era to equate it to. There isn't.
No.
It would be the Let me tell you this, kids. If you are below the age of 25, okay, I'm 40. Kyle, how old are you?
I am 31.
All right, so even a 9-year difference, okay? I'm 40, Kyle's 31. The equivalent to Hogan turning heel is what would be if you guys got your wish and John Cena turned heel. That's how big a fucking deal this was.
Not even turn heel, but imagine, okay, this is going to sound horrible as fuck, and I apologize right now, but imagine John Cena spitting in the face of a Make-A-Wish kid.
Yeah.
That is the level that this is.
Yes, it is. At that time in 1996, that's exactly what that is. That is like John Cena hocking a loogie in Connor's face.
It is, because that is what... For Hogan to come out and say that the fans can stick it.
It was unheard of.
It's still one of those things that gives you fucking goosebumps.
Yeah, it was.
And I know, like you said, it probably don't mean like shit to most people now, but to see it live, to see it happen, and to live through it, not to know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I mean, the only other than Cena, the only other guy turning heel that I could equivalent it to would be, damn. I mean, it would either be John Cena or Rey Mysterio.
Yeah. Well, think about it.
Or Daniel Bryan.
Yes. Well, they even tried to turn Austin heel, and it didn't work.
And you know what? To be honest, I'm going to be honest, and I've thought this from the time it happened, and I've really never said it, but that almost makes me think of Hogan as a better performer than Austin.
You know what? I gotta agree.
Because Austin could never, after he became the big baby face, he could never effectively turn heel. Hogan did it. And it could have been time, it could have been booking, it could have been the way things are or whatever. But
you have a guy who's on the downswing of his career.
Mm-hmm.
For all intents and purposes, should pretty much be wrapping it up. People were tired of seeing the red and the yellow. And then he fucking turns heel.
Mm-hmm.
It has a fucking
shocks
resurgence.
The world. Shocks the world.
It does. You know, I gotta honestly, for me, I enjoyed the Hollywood Hogan heel persona because when you had Nash and Hall who were trying to be the cool heels, Hogan fucking knew exactly what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
He was a chicken shit.
That's right. I think that one of the reasons that okay, so let me say this and let the fucking arguments begin. But maybe the greatest heel of all time is heel Hulk Hogan. And the reason I say that is because he was the most popular, loved, esteemed, all-American babyface of all time. And he turned heel.
It's Superman.
And he ate it the fuck up. You could tell he loved every minute of it. It's so funny when they talk about, like Bischoff and them talk about how hard it was to convince him to finally turn heel. And then you watch him and you're like, this dude fucking loves this shit.
Oh yeah, because it's...
he loves it.
To be able to come out and... I mean, he had played the good guy for so long and seen so many good heels. Think of all the heels that he worked with.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
so many good heels, and his heel turn is joining the NWO. It's like, I don't know. It is the equivalent of a pivotal moment in like WWE gets a lot of credit for Austin, but Hogan's heel turn is almost as pivotal in wrestling as Austin becoming the anti-hero babyface.
And I think the problem too is that, like, when Nash and Hall came to WCW, like I said before, they were the cool heels. Like, you know, like they just got done being fucking Diesel and Razor Ramon,
biggest faces,
and it took Hogan turning heel for it to work. I don't think anybody else could have pulled it off.
No, like they, you know, you listen to Bischoff and he talks about how his backup plan was Sting, and for WCW, that would have been a big deal. But I don't think, like, I think if Sting would have been the guy, if Sting would have been the third man, I think it would have been a big deal for WCW, but I don't think it would have been the pivotal turning moment in wrestling like Hulk Hogan.
No, I think you're right. I don't think that it would have been...
WCW never would have had their 83 weeks.
No. And like I said, I gotta believe that if it wasn't for the NWO, you wouldn't have had it on fire like it was.
No, not at all.
They wouldn't. I don't know. To me, I truly believe that you're right. Hogan was the greatest performer ever. He's fucking Hogan. I mean,
yeah. Yep. And it's
people can say what they want about Hogan, and the fact that, you know, he said some shit that, you know.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. One of the biggest, most disappointing moments as a wrestling fan for me is the worst thing he ever did. It sounds funny in today's wrestling. because kayfabe is dead or whatever. But the worst thing Hogan ever did was break kayfabe.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you got to see him as a family man with a wife and et cetera, and then you get the TMZ tapes where it turns out he's a goddamn bigot or whatever, and it's like, oh,
But
man, shit on my childhood.
yeah, but okay, so look, you know,
our heroes always fall. I know,
well,
but
and I always fall. I'm not trying to justify what he said. Please do not take that at all, okay? Nobody out there, please do not take this as I'm trying to justify what Hogan said, because it's not the case at all. But compared to, like, Bill Cosby or fucking O.J. Simpson, it's pretty goddamn tame.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he didn't murder anybody.
You know, he said something on a tape.
Wait a minute, I got it.
Under stress. And I've stated this before, and I'll say this again. I have a lot of friends who are black, who are African American, and the word that he used is not necessarily a term for African Americans. It's more of a term for people who are basically bums and scuzz, and they'll tell you that themselves. And the fact is that Hogan has apologized, and it's not like he fucking killed somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, was it wrong that he said it? Yes, absolutely. I don't justify that word. I don't think that word is right because, you know, it's the same thing with people flying Confederate flags. And they say, oh, it's heritage. Well, guess what? I'm part German, but you don't see me flying a Nazi flag because guess what? It's a fucking symbol of hate.
Yeah, and...
But should he be fucking ostracized and, you know, vilified because he said something stupid?
On tape.
You know...
And that's always been my thing about it, is he said it on tape. Like, the fact that he said it recorded and...
Yeah.
The fact that he said it recorded and didn't know it doesn't excuse the fact that he said it. But I promise you that a lot of your heroes have said things on tape that didn't get recorded, so it didn't end their career.
Look, the point is that I'm sure that you throw a fucking stone, and I'm sure any of us have said things that we would not want recorded. I'm sure any of us have said things that we regret and everything else. The fact is that, you know, I truly believe that we as a people are best when we fucking show forgiveness. I think, you know, I think Hogan has paid his price, and he'll continue to pay it, but...
And you can't deny his contribution to the industry.
No.
And, yeah, I mean, that goes for anybody, you know. So, I mean, you just can't deny it. You can't deny his contribution. And you absolutely can't deny that motherfucking heel turn.
No. And here's what I want to leave everybody with real quick. You know, I'm sure if we go back 20 years ago, to even 10 years ago, you have seen people toss around the word faggot.
Mm-hmm. Jerry Lawler.
Exactly. We live in a day and time where faggot is on back. What is that? Different orientation or... The problem is that there's people who grew up using that word in a context that, whether it was right or wrong, it was 10 years ago. I'm sure Hogan grew up in a business that was full of racists.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that I'm sure that term and that word got thrown around a lot.
Well, I'm sure it did.
And at the time that Hogan said that, he was what? Fucking in his 60s?
Close.
He's an older man that fucking is lost in a time of new technology. The world's changing around him. I'm sure it's fucking scary. And I would be willing to bet that I'm sure he didn't mean it in that context of that he hates black people.
He used a word that was what am I going to say? It was contextually, quote unquote, as ignorant as it was, acceptant for his era. And I'll say this. You can say Hulk Hogan's racist or whatever you want to say, but he definitely was not racist when it came to Mr. T.
No.
Or Booker T. Or any T. I mean, I'm just saying, like, from a business standpoint.
Political on this show. I know we don't get political on this show, but we have a fucking president who told that he wants to grab women by the pussy, and he can because he can get away with it. And the fact is, everyone's fucking okay with that.
Right.
So, we basically have a president who has said that he is okay with sexual assault. And has shown no remorse about it either.
And in no way, shape, or form is a pro wrestler's position more important than a president's position.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. People make mistakes, people fall. And, as much as we like to say that we live in a nation under God, forgiveness is not something that a lot of people like to fucking
no, especially
go
now.
about.
Especially nowadays. Like I just told my wife earlier, the number one word in the English language nowadays is meh. People just love to fucking whine.
Yeah.
And yeah. So anyway, there it is. Mixtapes.
Absolutely. Hey, I had an idea, Nate.
Mm-hmm.
I want to toss it by to you. We'd like to see some more, likes on Facebook and, 5-star ratings.
Yes.
And everything else on our iTunes and Stitcher and Podbean. I'm going to go ahead and throw something out there.
Okay.
I don't know what you think about this. And, contest. And we were to have one lucky fan who 5 stars and everything else chosen at random be able to join us on the podcast and talk about their wrestling experiences and their likes.
Oh my.
As a special guest.
I actually talked to somebody this week about that.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. He may be on with us soon, but yeah, we can. I can do that for the Facebook page. We can post that. Somebody want to be the special guest on the show.
We'll kind of let them lead with what, the subject or whatever, or hell, if they want to bring a fucking watch along. Like, hey, I really like this pay-per-view while we watch it, or I don't know. But
yes, we have. That is a thing that is out there, and I would love I would love to have that happen. So, Kyle.
Yes.
The next show, I've got it here. You have to pick a number.
Oh, boy.
The next show's a pay-per-view show.
Oh, boy, this worked out great last time.
You have to pick a number between 1 and 10. And because he's not here, because he's got the googly butts or whatever, the mud butt, you're going to pick for Aaron. But for you first,
Oh, boy.
1 through 10, a pay-per-view to watch.
All right. I'm going to go on the opposite sides of the spectrum. I'm going to pick 10, and I'm going to pick 1 for Aaron.
Ooh. All right, number 10 for you. You got a WWE pay-per-view.
Okay.
April 28th, 1996. It is In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies.
I can take that.
And you said number 1 for Aaron?
Yes.
Oh, shit. Ooh, I probably haven't watched this pay-per-view since it aired.
Oh,
It's
fuck.
gonna be fun.
I'm
Aaron,
going to get first out.
let me write this down. Hold on.
Oh, he's going to cut a fucking promo on me.
So you got In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies from 96, and Aaron got from 98 ECW. It's already fun. Heat Wave 98. It's August 2nd, 98. Let's see. WWE Network. Blah, 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 blah. WWE Network doesn't even give a fuck about this because it's like it features this guy, and this guy. So this will be fun. And since Aaron's not here, you get to pick my number.
Pick yours.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go middle of the road. Let's go 5.
Number 5. Son of a bitch. Whew.
Ooh.
September 17th, 1995. It is WCW Fall Brawl 95. That's going to be tough. That might be the one with... Let me see. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. I thought that was the pay-per-view with the Flair Anderson match that was stupid. When they had them break up or whatever. But it's not. It's not. It's still going to be a shitty war game. So, Kyle gets In Your House. Actually, I think you get the best of this one. In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies, with the main event of Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash. Aaron gets ECW Heatwave 98, which probably sucks. And I have WCW Fall Brawl 95, which probably ain't great.
Oof. Oh, man. Yeah, you got about a half-hour match between Johnny B. Bad and Brian Pillman.
Between who?
Johnny B. Bad and Brian Pillman.
One of these things is not like the other.
I don't remember Cobra. Who the fuck is Cobra?
He actually grew up to be NWO Sting. That's Jeff Farmer. That's going to be bad, isn't it? All right, well, we're going to sign off.
Yep.
For the 50th.
You ain't heard nothing.
We're playing Tootsie.
All right.
Here's
50th,
to another 50.
the 50th, yes. Mazel tov to another 50.
Exactly.
And on the next episode, we'll let Aaron do his mixtape. And then we'll do our pay-per-view reviews. I want to thank everybody for joining us for this episode and all the 49 before that.
It's truly an honor, guys.
For the 200,
enjoy doing this.
yes, for the 262 people out there listening on Podbean. It doesn't sound like a lot. It could be more than that. The only stats I get are for Podbean. But it doesn't matter. If we had 3 listeners, it would not matter. As wrestling fans, we appreciate your support.
And we're glad that we could come to you guys and bring you some entertainment.
Absolutely. So for Kyle and the absentee Aaron, we're going to sign off here tonight. And we will see you on the next episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast with some pay-per-view reviews. Episode 51 is coming up. And like Kyle said, here's to 50 more. Kyle?
Yes.
Say goodbye.
Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. Goodbye, wrestling fans, and thank you for joining us on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. And we'll see you next week.